Hi guys, this is Annette with Annette's Astrology Corner, and just soaking up some beautiful scenery that gorgeous Washington State has to offer. And, having a nice quiet morning and just enjoying my surroundings. And I am just really thinking about this new moon that's coming up on the 31st of March. And, just how incredible the power may be for some of you to feel. I know that it's just making me think about some extraordinary things, and I just thought I'd run it by you. Maybe you guys are going through the same things I am, and so we can kind of talk about it. Love this reflection right here. It's crazy beautiful. You can see all of the different contours and shadows and colors in the sky, but it just looks like you're looking at the sky. It's just stunning. And this is Francis. Hi, Francis. Hey, buddy. Hi. And so we have a new moon in Libra. So your moon is in Libra, and the opposing energy, which is the sun, is in Aries. And at the same time that we have this full moon, which is our second full moon this month, we have a Cardinal T-square. And at the top of that Cardinal T-square, we have Mars and Saturn conjunct in Capricorn energy. And I just thought about the power it must be for some of you to feel this type of energy. Let's talk about Libra energy being in a square, or this full moon being involved in a square. And the square that it's involved in is Mars and Saturn energy. So we're talking about an ending of a cycle and the need to make a change that can empower you. So this cumulative ending will actually could, for some of you, have enough momentum to make you determined to make a change, to go in a different direction, to, once and for all end this karmic roller coaster ride that you've been on, this cycle. I've thought a lot about a cycle that I feel is ending, and just the power that it's brought into my life, the empowering thoughts and the changes that it's making once I'm releasing this karmic cycle that I've been on, and many of you are starting to release in your life, because what you guys are coming to the realization, thanks to Neptune and Pisces and its journey in energy through our lives, is that we have been suffering some karmic fates. And through Uranus and Aries, what we're exploring is the need to identify these patterns in our life, these weaknesses in our lives, the ways that we suffer or make ourselves self-sabotage. We things we're addicted to that aren't healthy for us, and what we're trying to do is identify ways that we can make these big changes that we know we need to make. I've been experiencing something that is going to sound a bit crazy, but then again, Neptune's in Pisces, so of course, everybody's going to have a crazy kind of feeling about this particular subject, but it's something that's relevant and needs to be talked about. And that is this feeling that we're splitting our sense of self, and a new sense of self is emerging. The chaos that has been brought into our life by past suffering, past patterns, past karmic debts that we needed to pay, or past debts that we need to pay back because we've generated bad karma in our life, however you want to view that. If you believe that we're born in this life with a karmic burden or a karmic destiny, then we're really facing that right now. And I personally believe in that. I personally believe that it's no coincidence, the patterns that we get ourselves into. What I find is extremely substantial about this time in our lives, especially with Uranus and Aries and the journey that we're having, especially as we reflect back right now during this Mercury retrograde season, and then we've got the Jupiter in Scorpio, which is in retrograde. One of the things that I'm finding that is so... Oh, sorry, there's a plane going over, and I'm just gonna see, it's like right over our head. Is just how powerful this time is for self-realization and self-actualization and self-exploration, and just the awareness that our responsibility in our lives, what we've created, what we do, the patterns that we generate, both healthy and unhealthy, and the reasons for these particular patterns and these the particular way that we react, or the way that we move through life, our journey through life, and how it is connected to karma, and how the relationships in our lives are a big key. They're a huge key. They're like we're on this journey and we've just come across this mysterious cupboard, but we need a key. And right now we're finding the key to get into this mysterious part of our life, this unveiling of our new sense of self. And as soon as we can put that key in that hole and unlock this entire puzzle, then the awareness, the self-awareness, just opens up new doors and new possibilities in our lives. So we're kind of in the middle of this journey. We're kind of like right about ready to put the key in the hole, but we're not there yet. But we've found the key, and we'll find it right about now. And for many of us, that's just the awareness that the cycles that we've been creating in our lives are generated from our childhood. They stem back to the way that we were raised. They stem back to our parents, and the roles and the scars and the damage that they created in our lives. The expectation, whether they were realistic or unrealistic, the way that they may have idealized us and had expectations of our ideal attributes, but they didn't understand our weaknesses, where we would struggle in life, and they didn't acknowledge them. And so we've been kind of growing up for a really long time. Hey Francis, I just want to make sure you're alive. You're cool. She's like way down there. I'm just like freaking out. So when you go through this level of realization, and I believe that there is a massive reality check going on for many people, that's giving us a sense of personal responsibility in our lives. And the reason for that is because we have that, that Neptune in Pisces, where we've been having that journey with energy, and then we've had Uranus in Aries. And when you tie in the lessons that Saturn has been giving us, releasing us from, but also giving us, when we went through that really big Saturn and Sagittarius transit, what we realized is just where we are self-contained, where we stand in the way of our progress, where we generate restriction, where we generate where we live in unhealthy boundaries, where we don't have where maybe we don't maintain specific boundaries, or maybe we just keep ourselves in this little box because that's the safe zone. And really what we're trying to do is, that the world is trying to do is to show us to stretch those boundaries now. It's time. It's time to stop habitually and routinely doing things that just generate the same results, kind of like a hamster on a wheel. So we went through that entire eye-opening experience with Saturn. And at that same time, we had a very big Scorpio transit. And so I really believe that changes are just making us feel a little overwhelmed right now. But the possibilities are amazing at the same time. So I've thought a lot about this time of awakening, and that is the way I feel. I feel like I just woke up from a long, deep slumber where my unconscious thoughts, my unconscious wounds, my unconscious fears, my unconscious boundaries and limitations I've kept myself in. Granted, now I just want to emphasize on an unconscious level. I am now realizing and seeing them. I'm becoming conscious of these areas in my life and looking at how they've held me back and what they've generated in my life, and the ramification of living a life where I was very unconscious and and my decisions were being made on an unconscious level, on a sense of like an automated response to things. So when you wake up from this long slumber, what is just incredible is when you kind of split down the middle. You kind of like, you become extremely aware that you're personally responsible for being so unaware in your life, in certain areas of your life, and that you have the power to make the changes, and that, wow, how much power you actually have to really define yourself in a different way. And once you identify these areas, you have the power to make the changes that are necessary. Sorry, so looking at my dog. But I look back, because we're in a reflective cycle right now. So part of this square, I think, that some of us are feeling in this Libra full moon and a second full moon in March is we're also in a reflective cycle of deeply understanding why we did things, and deeply attached to our old sense of self before the realization, before all of the before we became conscious of our personal responsibility to making all of these changes. I mean, you can blame, like for instance, cumulatively, we can blame our relationships. That's Libra stuff. And we can look at our partners and probably at this point in our lives cumulatively see a pattern in our partners. And cumulatively, we can blame them. We can say, well, it's all their fault, And this is the opposition between the sun. This is like, do I take personal responsibility or do I blame my partners? Do I blame my relationships? Do I blame the people in my life? Or, do I examine this, identify it, and then take some personal responsibility to make the changes that are necessary to generate the life you want, And it's a tough time, because at the top of this Cardinal T-square that we have at this full moon, second full moon, is we have to really sit down and be honest with the fact that we have been on a very long karmic journey and we're releasing it. And there's a part of us that letting go of that sense of self that you used to identify with, letting go of anything that's connected to that karmic cycle is difficult, because they're people, they're relationships, they're things that we were determined to get and want and have. And, they were things that we deeply identified with at the time. And so letting go and starting over on this new path with this new mindset and knowing the vulnerability of the aware, and how aware we are of just the fact that the changes that have to be made need to be made by us. We're the ones responsible for our lives and the direction that it took. We can blame politics, we can blame the economy, we can blame all kinds of things. But in the end, it's our decision and our decision alone to stay stuck or to continue habitually, or one of the things I notice right now for the people that all the addicts that I've known is there's two types of addicts right now. There are people that are falling deeper into their addiction because they're more lost than ever, because the reality checks are monstrous, because the finger's being pointed at them, and they're very well aware they cannot turn away anymore from the personal devastation that they've caused themselves, the harm, and everybody else in their lives. So they're sinking, right, in this addiction process. And it's because they're identifying it. They're not lost. They are literally lost in the identification process of sorry, I just want to redo my hand, or reposition my hand, excuse me. Then there are the addicts that are like, crap, look what I've done to everybody, look what I've done to my life. I may not be able to completely correct everything that I've done to everybody, but I can make positive changes moving forward. And I've deeply identified my personal responsibility in this. And so I'm, going to move forward with a new outlook and this new awareness. And I'm going to make some changes, and I'm going to become the person that I deeply identify with now, not the person I was when I was falling in, the worst part of my addiction. I know people that are losing, their relationships have ended. And these relationships are people, one thing that's personally happened with me is cumulatively, I saw all of my relationships had a pattern. And this was monstrous to figure out. And I have dated lots of different people. I have had lots of different types of friends, all different ages, every different kind of person you can think of. I don't really have a particular type, except for I used to just really like tall men, and I used to like dark-haired men. But other than that, I really honestly have dated all different ages, all different types. And so I couldn't connect the dots because I dated blondes. I was married to a blonde. And so and he wasn't particularly tall. So I couldn't connect the dots until now. Now I identify the problem. Why I've been in relationships that don't work. Here I am, 48 and still single, and you're sitting here looking at your life and you're like, why can't I make a relationship work? I mean, nobody works harder at a relationship than me. Nobody gives more, nobody's more selfless. And then the light bulb came on right now, and there's no coincidence in it. And the reason why is because I identified my pattern. It's like I just date narcissists. Covert, overt, narcissistic tendencies, malignant, or, just on the spectrum of where they just, are just, have the tendencies. So it doesn't matter. But they've all my friends, everybody's had the same issue to some degree. And I was the codependent enabler, and they were the narcissist. So we were the perfect match. And if you were to ask me, about a year ago, if this was a pattern, if this was a problem, if this was an issue in my life, I would freak out on you, because I would deny that, because I hold all of the people in my life very accountable for their actions. I'm very real with them, and I don't stay long once it becomes super crazy dysfunctional, but I do stay too long. Most people would be gone way longer than, way sooner than I am. So what happened to me was I just thought, oh my gosh, first of all, the reason why I like tall and dark is that's what my dad was. And second of all, the reason why I like narcissistic people is because literally all I've had is narcissistic people. Like my parents were narcissistic, both of them. And then I was raised with another narcissist who became my my trauma bond after I got away from my narcissistic parents. And this was just such a giant self-defeating feeling. Like, sorry, my foot slipped. And it was just so hard to face this, because then that makes me personally responsible for being so unaware of this pattern, of this issue, of this subconscious scar, of this thing that I haven't really resolved. And I really honestly am not about pointing the finger back at my childhood, because I feel like I'm an adult and I have to take responsibility for myself. But honestly, on a subconscious level, I was regenerating dysfunctional relationship after dysfunctional relationship, because in some way, on an unconscious level, I needed to work out this karmic cycle that I was bound to. And the realization happened when I was ready, and when all these powerful planets could also give me an alternative. They could empower me after the realization. And that's what we're experiencing right now. Whatever it is in your life, whatever realization you are having, and I can just tell you that I don't know a person that's not going through some sort of realization. It could be that you are responsible for your health problems. It could be that you are responsible for your financial situation. Money is big right now. Money is a big conversation. It could be a combination. It could be that most of if you're looking at your life and you're financially strapped and you're in a point where you're alone, and you're looking at your life, it could be that you chose partners that depleted your resources, and up till now you never saw it because you just loved them. You didn't understand that these people were taking from you. They were absorbing your resources. You were in really unhealthy relationships. You didn't know that. So childhood things are coming up big time for a lot of people that I know. And they do stem back a long way, or to maybe some big trauma, maybe some area of suffering in your life. Maybe you were picked on at school, or maybe, there was a time in your life where you had a very hard time with your parents and their expectations. And so you've been trying to live up to that expectation, that unrealistic expectation of your parents on a deeply unconscious level. So this consciousness, this awareness, is what we're dealing with right now. And that's what's splitting you in a way. That's what's making you feel like there's two parts to you right now. There's there's the part to your identity where you are too aware to continue making the same habitual decisions. Francis, you little killer. It's a park. Hey, people get noisy in the park. It's all right, you little... Oh, he's such a badass. He's like a pint-sized little badass. I adore him. No barking. No barking. No barking. Little man. No barking. Bad. No growling even. Drama. Drama papa. Hey. No more, please. So, how to move forward? Because we're in a reflective cycle and we're having these realizations, and there is a resistance to this whole forward energy because, we have 2 full moons. I mean, good grief. We just went through a eclipse, and then we have 2 full moons, and we have Jupiter, the planet, the planet that rules expansion, and the third eye opening up, basically. And we have, that planet in particular expanding our consciousness, right? Like making us deeply aware of our fears, of our weaknesses, of our strengths, and empowering us and trying to feed us examples of where in the past we would flounder, where we have failed, where we have cumulatively developed patterns with relationships, with ourselves, with the way that we pursue things, on this very big karmic level. And it's just an intense time. So one of the things I'm doing is revisiting, I don't know if some of you are, but I'm just revisiting a very monumental time in my life where I'm considering an old idea. And this is great to do, by the way, very empowering to do, very freeing. It makes you feel like you have some control, even if it's control is always an illusion. But it's powerful when you are trying to establish a new identity, when you are trying to change your life for the better. One of the things that is happening right now is I'm just revisiting an idea. And this idea was, I told myself I would move out of this state, or out of Vancouver when my kids turned 18. That was a big deal to me. I wanted to do that because this city just holds nothing but intense life lessons, incredibly beautiful. There's wonderful things that have happened to me here, but it holds no value to me anymore, because everywhere I go, I can associate some sort of past memory to some sort of disappointment or pain. And I just don't want to live here anymore. And it just so happened that the world opened up some opportunities for me, created some possible resources for me to explore the fact that I may be able to revisit this idea, take my life on the road, and basically live out a dream of mine. So you want to talk about the positive energy that comes out of major outer planets, that aspect your personal planets. One of the things that happens is it creates the ability to change your life indefinitely, right? And when Saturn is involved in a full moon in Libra, a couple things come up. Your logical mind, do you have the ability to logically see that this is a probability? Can you look at everything, weigh out the pros and cons? Is really powerful to be doing right now. It can fire you up a little bit, put some passion back in there, put some determination, put some strength, kind of get the fire going in your belly. Enough to give you enough self-confidence to make decisions, even in a reflective cycle. And the key is I'm revisiting a past idea, a past thought, a past passion. Something I was once very fired up about and was absolutely determined I was going to do. And then for whatever reason, because I was going through karmic cycle after karmic cycle, just rehashing those old issues, I lost sight of this goal. So one of the best things to do during a reflective cycle like this is to revisit old goals, old desires, old wants, old needs. And the key is desire. When you've got Jupiter in Scorpio, you want to revisit those old desires. Maybe past relationships, maybe, regenerate some, maybe you've always had a regret in a relationship. That's great to do right now. And that square, you're feeling that square because you've really always thought about that person and you've really always regretted letting that person go. And so that's the person that, sorry, I had to itch. To really, you want to regenerate that. You want to see if there's a possibility there to rekindle. Because this person would deeply value the realizations that you are having and the changes that you are making. So that's super possible right now. Oh God, you will not believe how many itchies I have on my nose. So I just thought I would bring it up because when you have hold on a second, I'm going to do this. Sorry. Oh my gosh, I had to really itch my nose. So when you are really revisiting some ideas. They may be popping into your head. This one came to me out of the blue. And I just started to think about all the financial resources that are coming up that are making it possible. That is really powerful. So you have this past idea, and then you can sit down logically. That's something powerful to do in this moon, and work out the pros and cons. It's super powerful. Put them on a list, and then turn around and see if you can find resources to solve some of those situations, those issues. And really do your research and really see if you'd, really still deeply identify with it or not. So, and what's coming clear to me is, I may actually be coming clear to me anyway, is I'm actually surprised at the amount of resources I may be able to have, hopefully. Just fall into my lap. And the timing is all absolutely perfect with this moon. Like, everything happened within a week of this moon. And moons are incredibly personal to me because I'm a Leo on the cusp of Cancer. So, like, it's very personal when I experience 2 moons in a month. You bet I'm going to have a holy cow ending. I'm going to make a big change. I'm going to cumulatively come to something. And for me, it may just be leaving this area and starting over again, and establishing a new identity somewhere else. For me, maybe that's the new start that I need. That's the way that I can connect to this new sense of self, this this sense of self where I have to be, completely, it's hard to establish a new sense of self and to move forward with the amount of reality checks that we've been having lately. If so many people or so many relationships, or maybe your work or maybe your career, or is identifying you with your old sense of self, like, that's very, very hard. Or maybe even if it's just your mind, getting your mind on board, your psychological strength, you want to be, because we work on an unconscious level just as much as conscious. And so if you're constantly revisiting places where your past there was failure, then on an unconscious level, your brain has some sort of recollection process. Even if you don't allow those memories to interfere on a conscious level in your daily life, it definitely interferes on an unconscious level in progression. And so I feel like that's why I need to make this move. Because everywhere I turn out here is just some sort of painful situation, some sort of realization, a disappointment, and I'm just ready to change my life for the better. I'm ready to empower my situation. I'm ready to take control. I'm ready to see, this awakening, this awareness, it's like I've been sleeping for a very long time, and I'm ready. It doesn't matter how old you are, or how young you are, or at what stage in the awareness process you are. At some point, the realization is that you can take this 2 ways. You can get lost in the sadness and the sorrow and the suffering and the time lost, and you can get really caught up in the fact that you have been subjected to this karmic cycle that just was not fair. Or you can allow this to give you the power to re-identify yourself with an empowering situation where you are more in control, where you are more aware, where you are working on a conscious level, and you can just start taking your life in a different direction with the wisdom. And the key word is wisdom, because life experience is wisdom, and we're blessed to have it. And the older you get, that's why except for American culture, that's why other cultures really value their elders, is because they have this like incredible wisdom of years and years and years of experience of living the life, the human experience. And just because the United States is just so fracking shallow, and all they care about is the external shell that people live in, they don't dive deep enough to value the internal self, which is why, if you guys are wondering why I'm sitting behind a camera all the time, I am no longer letting YouTube view me, my human being, my shell, is because it distracts from the message. It distracts from the beauty of astrology. It distracts from my gift, for people to look at me. That's not important. What's important is the scenery. What's important is the earth, our human experience on this earth. It's not important for people to look at another girl, you know, and evaluate whether or not my hair is a certain way, or my makeup is a certain way, or my, or, you know, like I'm pretty or not pretty, or, you know, whether I'm hot. Like, it used to just gross me out. It's a compliment, but it was so not where I wanted, what I identified with. What I identify with is my message, is my realizations, is my gift. Those things I identify with. So this is what my little astrology corner is going to be. And it could be a teeny weeny corner of the web where 20 people look at my videos. I don't care, because I'm not trying to reach, I'm trying to reach the enlightened ones that are not connected to this shallowness of this world. I need it to be deeper, the connections to be deeper at this point in my life. Just too old, and I've come too far to be attracting shallow people. They're just not worth it anymore. Like, they have their journey, and I'm sorry, but there's many people out there on the internet that can help them through their human experience, their physical experience with themselves. I am here to kind of dive deeper into the mental realms and, you know, to really connect with the spiritual side of this experience. But anyhow, it's a lot of talking, but this full moon is powerful, and I just thought I would say something. And I'm just enjoying this view, and I just wanted you guys to see it and, you know you're not alone if this is what you're experiencing. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.